What if I told you that an ancient sacred text might be hiding a perfect mathematical secret? Well, today we're going to dive into a numerical pattern that seems to do just that. And, it all kicks off with one very specific number.
Okay, here it is. 15,876. On the surface, it doesn't really look like much, right? Just a number. But believe me, this number, it's the key. It's what unlocks this entire puzzle we're about to get into.
So what's the big deal with 15,876? Well, for starters, it's not just some random number pulled out of a hat. It's what we call a perfect square. It's exactly 126 multiplied by 126. Now, that kind of neat mathematical property, that's our very first clue that something interesting is going on here.
Okay, so it's a perfect square. That's cool, for sure. But the real question, the one we're really trying to answer is, where did this number even come from? And, maybe more importantly, what is it pointing to?
All right, to really get to the bottom of this, we can't just look at the number as a whole. We've got to break it down. We're going to take it apart, piece by piece.
And when we do that, something really fascinating emerges. We see 15, 87, and 6. Suddenly, it's not just one big number, it's a sequence. You could even say it's a code.
Now, this isn't just any random string of digits. These look like coordinates. But coordinates to what exactly? Some kind of hidden treasure? A secret formula? Let's go ahead and find out just what this code unlocks.
So it turns out these numbers, they're not pointing to a location on a map. Nope, they're pointing to a very specific place inside a book. We're going to use them as textual coordinates to find one exact spot.
And that book is the Quran, the central holy text of Islam. So our sequence, 15, 87, 6, it's basically a precise address, hidden somewhere inside its pages. So, you might be wondering, how do you find an address in the Quran? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. The whole book is divided into chapters, which are called surahs. Inside each surah, you've got verses, or ayats. And then, of course, each ayat is made of words, or katas. So, surah, ayat, katas. Just think of it like chapter, verse, word. Simple as that.
Okay, so now let's plug in our code. That first number 15, that's our surah, chapter 15. The second number 87, that's the ayat, verse 87. And the last one, 6, well, that's the sixth kata, the sixth word. Boom, we have our exact coordinates.
All right, this is the moment of truth. What do we actually find when we go to that exact spot? What's written at this intersection point between our number and this ancient text? So here's the English translation of that verse, Surah 15, Ayat 87. It says, "And we have certainly given you 7 of the often repeated verses and the great Quran." So it's talking about receiving these 2 incredible gifts. But, and this is key, remember our coordinate doesn't just point to the whole verse, it points to one specific word inside it.
To be super precise and find that exact word, we have to go to the original source. You see, the word count is based on the Arabic text. So let's take a look at that. And there it is, the 6th word. The final destination of our little numerical journey is Wal Quran. And what does that mean? It translates to and the Quran. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The coordinates, which are taken from a verse about the Quran, lead us directly to the word Quran itself.
Okay, let's just put all the pieces together here. The verse we landed on, 1587, is famous in Islamic tradition for talking about 2 key things, something called the 7 oft-repeated verses and the Quran itself. So the code is literally pointing to a verse that's talking about itself. It's self-referential.
So let's just lay this out one more time, nice and clear. Chapter 15, verse 87, word 6. You put those 3 numbers together, side by side, and you get our original number, 15,876. And this is a number that pinpoints the word Quran in a verse that is about the Quran. And, just to bring it full circle, remember what we said at the very beginning? 15,876 is a perfect square?
Which, of course, brings us to the really big question, right? We've followed this amazing trail, we've seen how perfectly the numbers in the text line up, but what does it all actually mean?
Let's just state the core finding as plainly as we can.
The number you get by taking the coordinates of the word Quran in verse 1587, that is, chapter 15, verse 87, word 6, that number, 15,876, is a perfect square. That is the absolute heart of this whole thing.
So how do we interpret something like this? Well, you've really got two ways to look at it. On the one hand, what we've seen is just a verifiable observation. The math is correct, the verse is right there in the text, it's a property you can check for yourself. But on the other hand, some people would look at this and say, no way, that is far too precise to be random. They see it as a clear sign of intentional, maybe even divine design.
And really, that's the question I want to leave you with today. Is this a meaningful design? A kind of mathematical signature woven right into the fabric of this ancient text? Or is it just a truly remarkable coincidence? A 1 in a million statistical fluke? A ghost in the machine of language and numbers? The choice of what to believe is yours.